Hi everyone, and welcome to join our first Dev Show episode. My name is Daniel. I'm working for Red Hat as technical marketing major as well as developer advocate. And my co-host Karen Singh. Hey Karen, can you talk a little bit about yourself and what are preparing for its first hour Dev Show today?
All right. Thanks, Daniel, for having me here on this show. And hey, guys, my name is Karan Singh, and I'm a developer advocate at Developers BU business unit at Red Hat. And in this first episode of the Dev Show on Daniel's channel, today we're gonna go over GitHub Actions and how could you deploy an application without using kubectl, without using OC client, or maybe without editing any YAML files directly from your GitHub repository onto OpenShift cluster or any OpenShift clusters, like showing you the entire pipeline powered by GitHub Actions. So that's we're gonna talk about today, Daniel.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So just one thing I want to add is some comment for the just Dev Show stuff. So this is
Mm.
not only showcase the Red Hat technology, but also we're gonna a little bit more showcase like a developer practice because the developer
Mm.
might have a lot of some issues and a hard thing on the daily work,
Mm.
some stuff to try to use a cloud level architecture or technology, not just Kubernetes and how to deploy application, how to make it better your Microsoft's
Sure.
application with the Kubernetes or the cloud level technologies. And we try to spend more time to help them to
Mm.
understand the basic and the fundamental technology as well as some kind of practical use cases and fun example. So today, that's why
Mm.
we are here, and the Canon will showcase not simple like a hello world application. It's more like a game application, how to use GitHub with the Kubernetes and how to make it better your inner loop development as well as like a more cloud native way.
Mm.
So let's get started and then take it away, Karen, and please share your screen and it's your show.
All right. Thanks a lot, Daniel. I just want to add to one point to this. Like, as a developer, I really enjoy watching, sessions like where you just show you the screen and show the real things, how things are done, how things are being baked up. So glad to have you on this show. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and then we'll go dive into the nitty gritty of GitHub Actions and OpenShift. Okay, good. So guys, bear with me. I promise that there are not of slide, not so many slides I'm going to show you today. But just to set the context, what we're going to talk about and what the remaining of the demo look like, I just need help from few slides, right? So okay, so I'm not going to go over this. I'm a Karan Singh and architect at Red Hat Developers BU. So let's talk about GitHub Actions. So GitHub is one of the most popular cloud platform for deploying or storing a repository and code. And GitHub has a very great feature called as GitHub Actions, through which you could basically automate almost everything. I can say that. So just for the people who are new to GitHub and GitHub Actions, GitHub Action is kind of if this then that kind of framework for GitHub. So for example, if there is a change in a GitHub repository, GitHub Action can detect that change, and you can programmatically do whatever you want to using on that event that GitHub Action has detected. So for example, in this image in here, if there is a push, let's say if there is a change detected by the GitHub Actions, you could build a container image and maybe push that to a container registry, and you can also deploy that to Kubernetes, right? So this is how people could use GitHub Actions. Going on to the next stage. So how typically people do is, like, as a developer, I love to write code, obviously, and then I want to push my code to a GitHub repository. So what I'll do is I'll do a git push. We can build these GitHub Actions to respond on any of these events. So for example, git push, create a pull request, merge a pull request, or maybe creating a tag, or maybe creating a new release. And this is not a full-blown list. There are close to 20 plus events which GitHub supports. So as a person, you can automate all these events and build your pipeline according to your own needs. So for example, in this image in here, if you do a git push, the action would be detected by GitHub Action, and then you can deploy this to any environment, any cluster, any cloud. of your choice. You can deploy it to OpenShift, you can deploy it to Kubernetes, you could deploy it to any other version of Kubernetes. So that's how that's the basic of GitHub Actions. And how would it look like from a developer point of view? It's all about YAML. YAML. So we're going to go over this in the VS Code editor. But yeah, so you would define a trigger, a PR trigger, like, hey, if there is a pull request on my main branch, please invoke this trigger. And then you can also set environment variables, which would be later used in your pipeline, like, hey, Docker credentials and OpenShift credentials, and those environment names. So these are just regular environment variables. You can also set secrets. I'm going to show it as well. And then you will define the GitHub action, like, hey, this is the job, and you need to check out my branch, and then you need to follow Docker build, Docker login, Docker push commands that you typically do on your local machine. You no longer need to do that. So that is the whole idea of GitHub Actions. You will just offload that stuff to GitHub, and then you will authenticate against the cloud provider, authenticate against OpenShift or Kubernetes, and then you will simply deploy it using an YAML, like the last line, OC apply -f deployment to OpenShift. So this is how a flow, a GitHub action workflow file look like. All right. So that's a lot of things here. Okay, let's go into the demo, right? Nothing can beat demo. Everything, you would enjoy this, I'm pretty sure. So in this demo setup, we're going to do two things. Yeah, this is the demo setup one. In here, I, as a developer, I will write some code on my development branch, and once I'm done with this, I'll do a git push, and then I'll push this to a remote repository. Then let's say, okay, Daniel is my team manager, let's say, and he will or maybe basically I will create a pull request from development branch to the main branch, and then in step number 3, the merge request or the pull request will go to Daniel. Daniel will, hey, okay, Karan, you have written this code. He will do some review, and then he will merge. If he likes my code, he will merge my my pull request from dev to main. And then someone else, or maybe Daniel, can create a tag, and then we will kind of release the app. So all of these actions from 1 to 5.
I'm more than happy to reject your PR. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so you need to
go ahead, please. Yeah.
All right. So make sure you use the comments to let me know why you rejected it. Anyway, so all of these events will trigger an action called as GitHub action that we'll see in a moment, and then we will deploy this to our great OpenShift cluster. Right. So that's the demo is all about today. I can go over this later on as well, and thank you. But yeah, don't go anywhere. I'm gonna share
Karen, quick question before you jump into the demo. So
yeah, please.
So why developer actually consider to use a GitHub action rather than existing like a traditional CI/CD infrastructure, for example, Jenkins or even Tecton or Circle CI? There are a lot of CI/CD pipeline. Maybe developer already familiar with that. Why GitHub action? Why this is so important for developer to develop Microsoft's application and deploy like a production ready infrastructure like a Kubernetes? Any thoughts about it? Yeah.
Sure. Great question, Daniel. So GitHub action is not the only way, but it is just one of the extra way, or one more way to deploy your application to any cloud provider. So Jenkins is great, Tecton is great, and so as GitHub Actions. So to me, if you ask me, GitHub is definitely one of the most popular website that I visit, because I just code a lot, and so other developers. And one of the things that look good to me is, like, they have a marketplace where you can kind of pick up these actions, and these are like building blocks, and on top of it you can kind of build your own apps. And just to get a point in here, let's see, I'll also show you PUB publisher, and then Red Hat. Okay, I think I have not done this. Okay, let me do this. OC-login. I'm not showing you. A minute. Okay. No. Apps. No. GitHub Marketplace, OpenShift Actions. Oh yeah, it's here. So if you see this, Daniel, so there is also Red Hat verified plugins available. So to me this is very useful. I don't need to invent how to log in, how to create a new app. Maybe Microsoft or maybe AWS if you like them. So they have a lot of pre-built action that you can simply use. But yes, again, there is nothing good, nothing bad about other technologies. It's just one more way people can do, and GitHub Action has done a great job in simplifying it the way the workflow will look like. So that's my personal take on this.
Yeah, I like that that's the idea. So yeah, I think it's a really great starting point for developer because they already used to
Yeah.
use, I mean, uh, GitHub as the source repository, and then they don't need to add like a third party or another tool for CI/CD or like a inner loop development because the GitHub Action already provided their capability with the GitHub. It's a very similar user interface and capability for developers, so which means
Yes,
that they don't need to spend more
exactly.
time to
And
learn something new. Yeah,
mm,
that's really cool. Yeah, please
and
go
you
ahead.
know what? And they have integrated nicely in the GitHub repository. So if you go to the Actions tab, you will also already get an Actions tab in the same UI. So it's kind of nice. I don't need to switch to another UI or make
Yeah,
sure where the pipeline is running. And once once the action is running, you can see this live in your PR view or a comment view. You can see, okay, it will show you, okay, what was the status of my PR. So they've nicely integrated this within their own UI. So I think that those are my reasons,
yeah,
Daniel.
that's a really good point. Totally makes sense.
Okay, so let's go into the weeds of let's deploy our first racing game app. On this. So what I have right now is I have an Aero cluster deployed on the Central India zone. So I'm not going to go over Aero, but yeah, it's just an OpenShift cluster that we're going to use today. If you see this is an OpenShift cluster, and just to show that I'm not cheating, I'm going to show you. This is my dev. This is my dev project, and if I go to my pods and deployments, it has no deployments at the moment, right, in the dev project. Okay, so let's go. Let's go to the game racing app. So I'm a developer. I'm having this great, amazing app which I built. It's already on GitHub, which I've moved in. A few things as a developer that you would need for GitHub Actions to be working, right? So let's first of all go and hold on. So I think let's go the other way. I'm gonna first show you how the pipeline works, and then we'll come back and review the YAML files. In that way, it would be fascinating for you guys. I'm gonna go back to my VS Code editor. So that's my VS Code editor, and here I have a racing game app, and it's a HTML5, CSS, JavaScript kind of a simple backend less application, game application, pure JavaScript. What we're gonna do is, okay, I'll go to my README file and just add one more line in here so that my GitHub will recognize a change, right? I need to give it a change. Okay, so adding dummy line for the comment, and welcome to the dev show, right? Let's do this comment. Okay, Lena Smiley. And I'll save this. As a developer, what you will do is, okay, I think I need to go to my, I'm in Knative branch. Yeah, I think on the right side. Okay, so, okay, get status. Okay, one file is modified. Fantastic. Get add dot, right? Get status. Okay, I have one file in here. Get commit -am updates readme file. Welcome to the dev show. Okay, git push origin knative dev, right? So that's what a typical developer do. I'm pretty sure, Daniel, you do this all the day as well. Git commit and
Yeah,
git push to
sounds
your
like familiar.
repository, right? All right, so nothing has changed so far, right? Let's go back to my UI and then say, yo, okay, I have received something. Let's create a pull request. Okay, and I'm going to do this to a dev branch, right? Because anyway, I'm not going to merge it to the main branch. I'll put this change into my dev branch, like, hey, Daniel, please review, right? That's what people do, and that's what developer do. They'll do a thingy here, and look at this one, Daniel. So checking for the conflicts, there are no conflicts, that typically it does. And then there is automatically one more thingy happening in the background, which is my GitHub action, which is being triggered. So this is how you can see GitHub action integration, which feels nicer. You don't need to change and go anywhere else. I'll go and see the details, what is happening under the covers. So it will redirect me to my actions, and there is a knative deploy thing happening. And this is the entire pipeline which is being run. So whatever you do as a developer, like, hey, Docker build, Docker push, or even before that, you will build your application, right? And then push your image to the registry, and then you will update your maybe your YAML files, and then you will log into your Kubernetes cluster or OpenShift cluster, and then you will deploy your application like kubectl deploy or apply and OC apply, this kind of stuff, right? So that's what the GitHub action is doing at the moment. And cherry on the cake is, right now, Daniel, I have not mentioned this before. Right now, we are deploying this game application in a knative serving. So it's not a standard pod, it's a knative pod.
Right? And this is really awesome, because people maybe thinking about the serverless application could be very specific application, but maybe not, because the developer can anytime evolve existing microservices to serverless, whatever they need. Yeah, because the old application has their own like event incoming, and even though from RESTful API or like IoT sensors or even human basically user interface, but it's all kind of sort of the event, which means your application can be changed to serverless anytime.
Exactly. I mean, totally agree with you, Daniel. And you know what? It's my personal preference now. Since starting this year, I've put in a resolution to myself, like, hey, by default, I will deploy all my apps in knative mode because I do a lot of testing and development and creating demos, because it's just easier to manage knative servings, and knative is superly matured at the moment. Okay, so look at this, Daniel. So this is the process: building the image, pushing to Quay, log into OpenShift, creating a candidate serving, and getting the PR, and and also commenting back the response into a comment. So if I go back here to my open PR, which is here, I will open it up, and the automation has the GitHub action bot. Like, hey, your code has been deployed, and here's a link to the application. So as a developer, I can immediately, or as my friends or as my team members, they can immediately check it out. How current code look like when it is deployed somewhere. So I'm going to click over this link, and I'm going to mute my tab, otherwise it will make some sound. Okay, boom, look at this one. So we have the app deployed. It is running on Knative, and if I play this game, this will give me my futuristic car running in my OpenShift cluster. 3, 2, and 1. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, this is running on Knative, deployed using GitHub Actions, and as you have seen that I've not ran any OpenShift command or kubectl command or any YAML editing directly from the browser or directly from the GitHub workflow. I deployed my application on OpenShift, right? So I'm going to play this later, Daniel.
Yep. So cool. Just a quick question, Karen. So
yes, please.
If some developer just wanted to deploy this application to just general Kubernetes rather than OpenShift, is that still possible technically? And also, is there any by chance to developer have like a free OpenShift cluster for running this application?
Yeah, fantastic. Great questions, Daniel. So I'll answer one by one. So this is this is platform agnostic technology, so you could literally deploy this on OpenShift or your own EKS GKE cluster, your favorite cloud providers Kubernetes service, even your own home built Kubernetes distribution. So nothing will stop you. You can easily do this without any problem. I happen to choose OpenShift because OpenShift, to me, it's a great platform, and I just use OpenShift. Answering the second question, you guys can get a free OpenShift cluster if you are a developer. So you just need to go to this line like developers.reddit.com, and then you can launch an OpenShift sandbox, developer sandbox, free of charge. It will be available for you for an entire month, and you can also go and even after a month you can go and restart that or recreate that one. So that's not a problem. So this is your way to get a free Red Hat OpenShift sandbox cluster hosted on the cloud that you can use anywhere, and that is free of charge. And you can use this for your GitHub Actions.
Yeah, sounds awesome.
So right. I think we will also provide you all these important links in the description of the video here.
Sure.
And yeah. So Daniel, any other question that is coming to you?
Yeah,
or should I go back?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So coming back now let's go to some learning mode. So this was a good demo, I hope. Let's go into what was done under the covers. So I'm gonna start with a YAML file. So rule number one, if you need to use GitHub Action, you need to create a directory called as .github/workflows. So that's kind of the standard nomenclature. That's how GitHub knows that you're using GitHub Actions. Create this directory, empty directory, and then create a YAML file. So the way it will work is you will first of all define the trigger when it has to be triggered. So remember, if I created a PR from Knative branch to the dev branch in here, it would be this would be the trigger that you can define. These are the environment variables, like environment is here, and you can also use secrets. I'll show you where you can define the secrets, because it's a good practice that you should never ever write your secrets in plain text in any of the files, right? So we're going to leverage GitHub secrets for this. But yeah, the idea is that you will define all your secrets in the environment section, and then you will start a job, which is the nomenclature of GitHub Actions. You would check out your directories, and then you would kind of get the SHA, which would be later used in this program, and then you will use kind of a build image. So again, we will use a Red Hat action, which will build the container image using Builda. Builda is a great tool for building container images. You will name the container image, you will tag it, you will use the base image, and then you will provide a Docker file, that is your Docker file from the repository. And then once the image is built, you will push it to Quay. We're going to use another action. Remember, like these actions are building blocks. I'm not reinventing how it is done. So I'm just calling a Red Hat action, which will push to registry, push to Quay registry. I will provide the credentials because it's a private repository. And once the image is pushed to my registry, I'm going to log into OpenShift and set context. I'm going to use another action called as OC login, provide the credentials, provide the API server URL, provide the namespace through which I will log in. So it's kind of equivalent of OC login, then minus your username minus p password, the CLI that you typically run. Okay, so once the program logs into your OpenShift cluster, what we're going to do is we're going to use another action called as KN Service Manager, which is another Red Hat action, which will deploy a Knative serving using the container image that recently we have built and using the credentials of the registry. And basically this will it's equivalent to KN serving create command, right? And once it is done, we are basically gathering the route name, because I want to put this out into the PR, and hey, your code has been deployed and here's the link to your application. And I'm using Peter's Evans GitHub action to create or update a comment. So I'm kind of on the runtime, I'm creating a new comment in my PR so that it's easier for others to review. So this is how a GitHub action workflow file look like. You can create as many action files you like. So for example, if you see this, my repo, I have total five action files. The difference is that, I can simply change the event type. For example, pull request on main, right? And this one is again on main, and this one is tag create. If there is a push in a new tag and there is a new tag created, so that's the workflow look like. So Daniel, any questions that is coming to you?
Yeah, it's really great. And I just maybe it's a question not just for me. So maybe so new developer, I mean so beginner or just junior Java developer or just any application developer doesn't have any experience with the YAML thing.
Mm.
And then maybe it's a little bit overhead for them because there are multiple steps. And then is there any good practice or example how to get started to develop or implement this YAML based GitHub action? Not maybe 5 or 6 steps, maybe just one or two step, like just for beginner. Is there any
Uh-huh.
other resources or GitHub example how to get started developing GitHub action
Yeah,
stuff?
yes, I think that's a good question. So, I also need to go back and check the GitHub documentation if there is kind of a Hello World equivalent of things where you don't do all these complex stuff like, hey, building the image, pushing the image, and moving to the Kubernetes cluster. But yes, I got your point, and that's a valid ask. I need to go back and check the documentation. I don't have. I'm pretty sure that there will be definitely something available, but yeah, I haven't looked into this. I was working on this kind of entire workflow.
Yeah, sounds
But
cool.
yeah, we can check it later,
Okay.
right?
So, and then one thing, maybe I want to share some GitHub action practice for my side. So, just imagine that as a developer, you gotta have a multiple project, not just one single. Maybe 5 or 6
Mm,
project you need to maintain by yourself, like the Java JDK version or specific library version or some of the maybe dependency as well. So whenever new
mm,
version or technology just come up, and then how do you change that? So maybe you go to that project, maybe Fiverr project, and change it like the POM XML or your dependency YAML or
mm,
configuration YAML file, and then you do the same thing for the another project as well, like a 5 times, six
mm,
times, even 10 times. But if you already have a
mm,
GitHub Action setting, it's automatically changing the specific file as well as like a verify the application project as well, like a maybe verify or testing unit test, something like that. It's totally automatically uh,
yeah,
make your application change as well as modify application like a source quality perspective. That is one of the good practice of why you need to adopt the GitHub Action and apply for your existing working projects.
yeah. That's a good point, Daniel. And you talked about Java. The another demo that I have is based on Python. So it's a Python of a simple Python app using fast API, which will just trigger this. So okay, so let's quickly go over and on the second demo, which is this time my another directory cd dot. What was the name of the directory? Yep. All right. So again, I'm in the development branch. I'll go and close this as close this. I'll show you this one. So this is another simple directory, right? I have a requirement.txt file, which is standard Python, and then I have a Docker file, which will build my application, which is using UBI, minimal image, and then it will run up my app. If you see my app, it's one of the most minimalistic app, like six lines, using fast API and launching a service, microservice, I would say. Which will say hello, greet the users, and this is my deployment, my GitHub action file, right? Deployment, when you deploy the code from local to so dev branch to main branch. So let's run this and see how you can experiment with other events, right? So let's go back and do a change in the repository. Okay, I'll just go and add. We are live on the dev show. right? So I did a minor change in my application. And I'll do git status. All right, git add dot, and then git commit minus am fixes. Okay, greetings. And then I'll do a git push to origin dev. All right, I'm going to move my code base. Okay. Okay, it's not dev, it's development. Sorry. Git push origin development. It's not dev.
Yep.
My branch name is development this time. All right, so my code is now pushed to here, and I got a message from GitHub. I'll create a dev branch, and I'll do yeah, whatever command, right? Hey, and then I'll do a pull request, and then like I showed before, this will kind of launch an action. It will try to deploy my app using GitHub Actions. So nothing fancy, honestly, nothing fancy happening. It's the same thing, but the thing that I want to show you is the entire cycle of development. So as a developer, push my dev branch or my feature branch to the dev environment, and then somebody else will do a merge. And we really want that once the code is merged, in ideal situation it should also get deployed in any environment, so that we know things are not breaking. And once it is deployed in the test environment, we can move this to merge it to maybe we can create a tag, right? Typically that's what we do. We create a tag, and then uh, create a release out of the tag. So that's how it is done. Okay, so good. So this is now deployed, and this is being completed. It's still waiting for this to be completed. So if I click on this link, it will show me application not available. Just give it a minute. I think things are getting spawned up. Let me go and see. Okay, my Python app is running. Okay, yep, it's up and running now, right? And if
Maybe
you
you
see,
change it. Oh yeah, there you go.
yeah, so the Python is now running. So here's the pod which is listening to my app, and boom, everything is good, right? So what Daniel will do is, okay, Karan, your code looks great, and I'm gonna merge it. And then as soon as you merge, another trigger will kick in. So if you go to actions and see, another merge trigger will redeploy my app to maybe a different environment this time, maybe from dev to test, right? So exact same thing will happen, and then we'll create a tag, and then we'll just complete out this demo. So meanwhile, this is running, Daniel.
Yeah, it's really great, and thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing and showcasing the GitHub Action in terms of how capable GitHub Action is for the developer in terms of how to develop and deploy your business application and deploy in specific target environment. Not just deploying, but also you can verify the application as part of the test-driven development, and also you can deploy this application for the general container application on top of the Kubernetes, but also you can change this application as a serverless on the Knative, which allows developer to have building block running on the serverless capability on top of Kubernetes. Let's wrap it up today, and then just summarize what kind of takeaway the developer earned from this demo. Demo and the dev show at the first episode.
Yeah. So my biggest takeaway when I tried this thing, like a month or 2 months back, like, yeah, this is super powerful, right? You don't need to run once you set the workflow, you don't need to touch upon your OC or kubectl or YAML files in Kubernetes. Kubernetes is complex, right? But yeah, once you set this thing up, this pipeline, and it is fairly easy to set up, you can literally automate everything whatever you are technically doing manually, right? So that's my biggest takeaway.
All right, so thanks for joining us again. The first episode of the Dev Show today. So it's always really great and helpful showcasing demo and then example and best practice Thanks again, Karen. Feel free to subscribe my YouTube channel, and we're gonna keep doing this nice dev show. Any question around this dev show and the technology we already showcased, and we are more than happy to address the question.
No, Daniel, thanks for having me on this show, guys. And if you like this, just drop a note on the comments, and this will really motivate us. And subscribe to the channel, and we would be back with new content and new technical developer specific, hands-on demos for you guys.
Awesome.
Thanks, Daniel.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, everybody, and then have a good rest of the day. Have a great week.